Hi, my name is Sarah Schwartz, and for this complex problem, I chose the best training practices for retainability of ALICE procedures. ALICE is an acronym for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. ALICE is a set of protocols that are enacted as soon as a threat is determined inside an educational institution. These protocols are carried out by all school staff, as everyone has a responsibility to protect the students. ALICE protocols do not need to be followed in the ALICE order, but as the situation demands and as the proximity of the threat is to you in your classroom. Alert. Alert is just that. It is alerting the building or the campus of the threat. Training on how to alert is very important. Do you use a PA system? Do you have to call someone besides 911? Or are there more sophisticated communication, such as Navigate 360, that uses a silent button on a cell phone to alert all the cell phones within the building? Lockdown. Lockdown is securing the students inside a classroom or a closable space until the time they can be evacuated or until the time the threat has been neutralized. Training on when to lock down and when to evacuate is crucial. Inform. Continuously informing the student body and the staff of the location of the threat is very important. This can be done over a PA system or also with the Navigate 360 app. This allows educators to judge when they should keep their students locked down or when they can evacuate. Counter. Counter is your last resort. Counter is physically countering the suspect who is doing the threatening. It's not always your best option, but sometimes it's your last option. Evacuate. Evacuate is moving the students from their locked down space out of the building to a pre-designated meeting spot. This removes them from the threat. In looking at the issues of staff being able to retain the training for ALICE, how to make these decisions, which way they should go to their building, inside the building, where they should go, we had to sort of zoom in, zoom out, as we learned in the TED Talk that Eric Burlow did. When we looked at that, there were some barriers. The barriers to educators being able to retain information. We had to look at our sphere of activity, right? What we are in charge of, what we can change. Sometimes the problems that we encounter in the school are so vast, we can feel overwhelmed. School violence, the things that can contribute to that, mental health changes, access to mental health services, family violence, bullying, all of these things are often out of the control of educators. If we can zoom in to our sphere of activity, what we can change is our response, how we can respond in the event of a threat. Sandy Hook, although an awful and terrible tragedy, did show us how their training and their practice drills did save lives. But change is hard. For years, we have trained the same way. Sandy Hook did teach us that some of the things we were doing wrong. And not all training is equal. Some school districts prefer to only verbally train in one meeting a year. Others do verbal training in monthly or weekly meetings. Some only show videos, while others will do physical drills, similar to fire or tornado drills. Some do a combination of all. The mental barriers for educators and school staff are violence, death, fear, feeling out of control, and the realization that most likely the perpetrator of school violence are former students. These barriers make it very difficult when we are trained in ALICE procedures to remember these. We may be sitting down in a meeting and we're giving paperwork or we watch a video. The reality of what could happen is so daunting that it's difficult. To overcome these barriers, the best way to retain your training is to use the cognitive load theory. The cognitive load theory engages what followed by how and then layers it. It's sequential learning for school staff to learn what do we need to do and how do we do it? What are we doing? What are the ALICE procedures? And then physically, how do we go about doing them? Layer by layer by layer and doing it often. If the ALICE procedure tells you to call over the PA, okay, we've now learned to do that. Now let's physically practice that. Just like a fire drill, if you are supposed to exit out your door and turn left, we need to physically practice exiting with your students out the door and turning left. Layering it over and over and over reduces your stress, just like fire and tornado drills, so that in the event it actually happens, muscle memory can kick in. You can take over your class and move them to safety. For some school districts, they are stretched very thin, and they don't have someone that can come in and help train their staff, especially in the repeated way that cognitive theory needs to be done. You can collaborate with your local police department or with certified ALICE trainers who are happy to come in and work with schools to layer with their school staff so that in the event of the unthinkable, the preservation of life for your students will be higher than not. Thank you.